Hello everyone and welcome back to some Gran Turismo 7 license tests. We're here to complete the final two of the super licenses, starting off here at Deep Forest Raceway in a Nissan GTR GT500 car. Obviously car that races in Japan in the Super GT series. I nearly forgot what the series was called there for a moment. But yeah, GT500 cars, very quick, probably the quickest GT cars that race. They're not, they're actually very similar pace to the current Le Mans hypercars and LMDH cars that race in the World Endurance Championship and IMSA. And so with that said, as I mentioned in the previous episode, I'm quite used to more race-like cars rather than some of the road cars you get in these license tests. And I think that kind of shows here with sort of what has been a decent first run. Deep Forest Raceway is a track I've driven a little bit on when it comes to the old versions of it. I've driven a bit in SL Corsa and maybe even Beam a little bit too. I can't remember off the top of my head here. But of course it has changed a bit for GT7, most notably this hairpin, meant to be a good overtaking opportunity towards the end of the lap. So it's not quite the same. But as we come towards the line for the first attempt here, we are going to complete the first attempt. Run up to the line, it's not going to be gold, but we will take silver by 2 seconds, beating the silver time, but 1.7 seconds to find to go for the gold time. So in our second attempt here, let's see what we can do, braking a bit later down into turn 1. Now we know just how much more aggressive we can be with the car, with just how much grip it has. These GT500s do have a lot of grip. Into this twisty section, just trying to get the right lines, or compromising that right-hander there to open up the next couple of corners before the tunnel. Initially it seems to work out, but then doesn't quite. A little bit wide here through the right-hander, loses us a little bit of time, but we're only a couple of car lengths back from the ghost car. Then into this downhill fast left-hander, just maybe a bit too much speed, bit late on the turn-in maybe, but either way we run out wide and we feel the run. And so we go again for our third attempt now. Again into turn 1, braking just after the 100-meter board into the open hairpin that makes up turn 1 here, using a bit of the exit curb to try and carry a bit more momentum, straighten the car up early to try and get on throttle, and then just a little bit too ambitious with how much curb we take on the right hand side, or grass even I should say, cutting the course and getting an off-track failure there. So again, back into turn 1, getting the car nicely rotated into turn 1 with some late braking as well. So we're matching the ghost after turn 1 into this right-hander, giving a bit more space, trying to be a bit more aggressive into the corners, carry a bit more speed into them. Seems to work out for the first part, but then we do lose out on the exit through the tunnel. And this long right-hander again just being a little bit wide. It was sort of an extra car length back compared to where we were on a couple of attempts ago, but we do get the car turned into this left-hander here, into sort of this acute left-hander that leads you onto this back section towards the hairpin now. So that exit very important, and we've dropped back a little bit further, but I think we're a bit closer than we were on our first attempt. So as we get to the hairpin, we're going to have to try and spot our braking zone here. Braking by the 100-meter board, getting the car slowed down, turned in very nicely. Now it's just by getting on throttle for the run to the line. Will this be the run? Trying to hug to the left-hand side, take the shortest distance possible up towards the line, and taking a little bit too short of a distance, clipping the left-hand side pit wall, invalidating our failing the fourth attempt. So on to the fifth attempt now. As you mentioned, I did have a little break to go off and do one of the daily races between these two attempts, so trying to get back into the rhythm. So a bit of a messy start to this attempt, but still not too far back as we head into this long right-hander, taking a tighter line initially, running a little bit wide on the exit, but we're not any further back than we were in the last run into this left-hander. Try and carry a little bit more speed through here. Have to sort of guide the throw a little bit as we understeer towards the outside on the exit, but we just keep it within track boundaries, and we're keeping it clean then on the run towards the hairpin now. Again, not any worse really, I would say, than we were on the previous attempt. So gonna have a good hairpin here, looking once again towards 100-meter board, braking just ever so slightly after, a little bit deeper this time. Still get the car turned in, but a little bit wide of the apex, using a little bit more of the curb too on the exit of the hairpin. And it's just a matter now of taking that short distance to the line, not clipping the pit wall, see, giving that a lot of space this time. And so on the run up to the line, it's gonna be tight here, but we're just gonna miss out by less than a tenth. We've had that a few times doing these licenses. Once again, in the next attempt, it'd be a little bit too greedy on the right hand side on the grass, so we will have to try again. Now down into turn one once more, so we're using the orange marking in the barrier this time, so by between 80 and 90 meters into turn one for the braking point. Now into this twisty section, not 100% confident with the line, but trying to carry more speed than the ghost car, and it's been our best run so far. We're in front of the ghost car, a little bit quite wide though through this right-hander, sort of a car's width wide for the apex the whole time. That does leave us a bit to the ghost. A good left-hander here sees us close in a little bit too, but just sort of a little bit blindsided into this left-hander, being right on the tail end of the ghost. Sees us run deep into the left-hander, missing our braking point and feeling that run. Next time we're a little bit further back from the ghost, sort of taking a different line. Unfortunately, just getting a bad exit, sort of carrying too much speed into the corner, a bit too acute of an angle. Trying to make sure I didn't run wide, but yeah, very poor exit. That loses us a couple of car lengths down towards the hairpin. So again, we'll brake by the 100-meter board, get the car turned in for the apex. Carrying a little bit too much speed though. We're a little bit wide for the apex, and being that little bit wide causes us to not have the traction on the exit of the hairpin. We spin round and have to go again. This time we're still sort of within that couple of car lengths of the ghost car out of the hairpin, so this should see us close enough. This time still shortening the distance as much as I can on the left hand side on the run to the line. But yeah, we were only needed a tenth. We certainly found a little bit more of a tenth, nearly half a second up on the goal time for our final attempt. That lets us move on now to the final exam, the infamous Porsche 917K at a wet Spa. This classic Le Mans prototype, an absolute beast to drive. I've driven around in Nordschleife in this car. It is terrifying. It is ludicrously difficult. And a lap around Spa. Spa, not too difficult of a circuit, but as you can see, the track, lot of standing water across the track, but still a little bit damp on the racing line, not as wet as the rest of the track is. So for our first attempt, we get through turn one, get through the Rouge and Radion as well, falling quite far back from the Ghost on this attempt, but we're not too concerned about that. This is really sort of feeling out the conditions, shall we say, for a first attempt. Braking just too late into the Lycombe chicane at the top of the Camel Straight, and we'll have to go for another attempt. Now this time into a Rouge and Radion, a bit more aggressive going into the corner. It was looking good until going over the curb of Radion, the car getting spat sideways. Just sort of a little bit too much curb, a little bit too much steering angle, unsettling the car and spinning us into the left hand side wall. Our next attempt then into turn one, a little bit too late on the brakes this time, and when you get onto the wet part of the track off the racing line, just realised, yeah, the grip's not going to be there. The run is practically over. Might as well have another go. So we go again down towards turn one, braking by the 100-meter board. Get the car slowed down into turn one, a little bit wide, a little bit of understeer. But we're all right just on the exit. That water comes across very close to the racing line, and yeah, we end up spinning out on it for that attempt. Next time through, we get through clean one. All right, the car gets unsettled over the curb on the entry to a Rouge, and then we have to retry again with a little faffing around of the PlayStation menus, just sort of wanting to not waste any time between runs, let's just say, and not being familiar with the PlayStation menus. Through turn one, a little bit wide again. You can see a little bit compromised of the exit, just not carrying as much momentum through the latter half of the source hairpin. That leaves us a few car lengths back as we head into a Rouge and Radeon, trying to keep off the curb a little bit more this time. And the car gets a little bit unsettled over the crest of Radeon, but we keep it in a straight line, and we're heading up to the Les Combes chicane now. We know we've got brake a bit earlier than the curb on the left hand side, braking a bit before the 150 meter board, which in hindsight bit early. Has us slowed down well in time for the Les Combes chicane, but that lets us get through the Les Combes chicane. We do lose quite a bit more time to the ghost car, but we're able to try on the rest of the lap into this long downhill right-hander. Very awkward in a lot of cars. We get through it cleanly, but judged our braking point quite well. A little bit wide of the apex through no name, but we keep it on the dry part of the track. Now heading towards Puyon, braking about 70 metres, I'd say that was, into the double left-hander. Being cautious with the throttle through the exit, and then went to plant the throttle, had to back out of it a little bit as the car started to slide. Now into the Piff Paff chicane. As the run, okay, we've fallen away quite a bit from the ghost car, but we're certainly learning as we head through the middle sector of the track for the first time now into Stavelot. As we get into the final sector, a little bit wide through Stavelot here, which is going to compromise our momentum up the hill towards Blanchemont and the bus stop chicane. But as the track weaves its way ever so slightly on the run up to bus stop, there's going to be a little bit of water, and unfortunately just don't go have quite the right line, and gonna slide out there with only a couple of corners to go. A little bit more aggressive this for the next run into the Les Combes chicane. That allows us to stay a little bit closer with the ghost car, making sure we sort of take a straight run between the left-hander and the right-hander. Don't want to unsettle the car, so we try and put the power down. We're going to try and be a little bit more aggressive with the brakes into this long right-hander, but just be a little bit too aggressive this time around. So we'll have to go for another lap, but we're certainly getting better. While we haven't completed a run yet, we're keeping up with the ghost car a little bit better throughout the lap. Through turn one, getting the car turned in very nicely. Try and get on the power, just trying to avoid the water on the right hand side. End up getting onto the curb onto the left hand side and losing traction from that. Cut on then to our next run, where we're back into the final sector, much closer to the ghost car than we were the previous time, but try and keep the steering wheel straight, taking a big lift, but it wasn't enough. The car's still sliding over the water, and we have to go for another attempt again into the final sector, nearly 2 seconds quicker than we were on the first time we got to the final sector. I've just noticed on the split times. But yeah, this time we're going to try and keep it clean, completely off the throttle, bringing in the throttle nice and gently, and we do get through cleanly. Now through Blanchemont, the car's sliding around a little bit, but we keep it under control. And now we're running up to Blanchemont, braking about 130 metres, I think that was. A little bit cautiously in hindsight, but we just want to get through the bus stop chicane cleanly. Watch the traction a little bit on the exit, but get the car straight, plant the throttle, and we will be 2 seconds off of the gold time in our first completed run here. Our next attempt would be in the middle sector, coming up towards Puyon, and just a little bit too late on the brakes, try and get the car rotated in, turned in, but ultimately didn't have the grip for it. The car getting into the ABS there, not slowing down or turning in properly. Then the next run up through Radeon and Rouge, I just wouldn't quite get the line right, clipping the right-hand side curb, just taking too much of it, unsettling the car, causing us to go for another run. So then out of turn one, again, trying to take a lot of that right-hand side curb, and just ultimately taking too much, unsettles the car. We gather it back up, but we're just on the wrong line. Get on the exit curb from Radion and then trying to keep the car straight so it doesn't spin. If you put steering input when you're on the curb like that, it will just instantly spin. Really, we were pointing off the track and we weren't able to get going again. Then next turn, a little bit deep into turn 1 once again. So we will lose that run. So we go on for our next run down towards turn 1, braking just before the 100-meter board. Try and get the car turned in. Not quite this time. A little bit too. They didn't get the car slowed down and it didn't feel like us quite got the right entry into turn 1 that time. Again, just before the 100-meter board, and again, I'm just sort of on this run of braking myself a little bit, trying to be aggressive into turn 1. Of course, it's a corner I've got the most practice at this time, as you attempt it on every single run that you do. So it's a corner you feel like you have the most confidence with. But they're braking like only a meter or two before the 100-meter board and getting the car slowed down and into the corner this time. So, just how, especially in these conditions, can be a little bit inconsistent. How you apply the brake and any steering inputs are very important. Up through Erosion Radion, using the curbs and getting away with them, keeping it straight. The little tap of the exit curb that nearly dragged the car off the track, but we just kept it straight. And if you look at the mini-map in the bottom right, you'll see we have a nice gap on the ghost car as we head up to the Lacombe chicane. Braking at the 150-meter board gets us slowed down nicely and turned in to the right-hander. Now through the left-hander, then straighten the car up for lifting off the throttle again through this right-hander, staying off the exit curb to let us get the power down. Braking just before the the curb on the left-hand side starts for this long right-hand hairpin, a little bit wide through second half of the corner, but get the power down nicely on the exit, get the car turned in reasonably well for the left-hander here of No Name, maybe a slight bit wide for the apex, but we will get away with it. Down towards Pion now, braking just before the 50-meter board, getting the car turned in, sort of pointed towards the apex nice and early, trying to pick up the throttle through the mid-corner, getting full throttle for a little bit, but have to back out through this for the second apex before we head down to the Piff Path chicane. Once again, pointing the car towards the apex, getting it turned in nice and early, keeping the car nice and settled, staying in second gear, picking up the throttle a little bit cautiously at first, but then getting to full throttle once we're off the exit of the corner and through the final right-hander here of the middle sector. Nice and neatly done. We're nearly over 3.5 seconds quicker than our first attempt was at this point of getting to the final sector. So now we're coming up to the dreaded run to the Blanchemont chicane, taking a big lift, trying to keep the car straight, but ultimately, we do lose quite a bit of time to the ghost car, and to get on the exit of Blanchemont, just running the curb again, trying to keep the steering wheel straight, to not spin around. Unfortunately, that would drag us off the circuit. So we would have to go one more time. We know we're ever so close to beating this. It's just about getting the run completed. Little bit wide through the exit of Blanchemont, as you can see there, a little bit on the curb, try and bring the car to the right hand side, got on the water once again, and that run would go to waste. So then, down towards turn 1, I haven't been counting how many attempts we've done, but aggressive on the brakes, a little bit wide for the apex, but trying to sort of V off the corner, get a good exit from that, and we do get a slightly better run through turn 1 then the ghost. You can just see the arrow, the gold arrow in the bottom right, starting to fall behind us a little bit as we enter a Rouge and Radion. Very committed entry to the corner, nice cut over the Radion curb and keeping the car importantly straight as we go over the Radion curb, so the car not getting upset at all. Very good run. Look at that, we have quite a few car lengths on the ghost cars. We head up the Kemmel Straight to they come braking 150-meter board once again, being a slight bit more aggressive through here than it was on the previous run. Felt like I left a little bit of time on the table again through this right-hander, but just keeping it off the left-hand side curb, get a good exit. Again, bringing the car over to the apex to the inside nice and early where the grip is. A little bit of a tighter line, and we're keeping that gap that we have on the ghost car through the left-hander of No Name. Still not quite getting the apex, but still carrying good speed, keeping the gap that we have on the ghost car. Down to Puon now, again 50-meter board, getting the car turned in nice and early, holding third gear, trying to pick up the throttle, holding half throttle, had to completely lift for a slight moment, but it was only a slight moment before we get into the Piff Path chicane now. Sort of pulling a little bit of a late apex, trying to open up the second part of the corner a little bit wide for the second apex, but keeping the car off the exit curb to get good traction down to the final corner of the second sector. Straighten the car up and power to the line now 4.5 seconds quicker than we were on the first attempt. The car getting a slide on, putting the power down out of Stavilo. The car trying to step away from us, but we just hold on to it. Now we're heading up to Blanchemont. Again, another snap, losing a lot of time as we're just having to lift and be very careful through there. Being a little bit careful too of Blanchemont. I've only attempted the corner a couple of times, so I didn't quite know where the limit was, and then braking for the bus stop just after the 150 meter board, trying to make up a little bit of time on the Ghost. We don't need to beat the Ghost for a gold time, but in my head as a racer, I want to beat it. As we come up to the line, we will beat the time by just over 3/10. And there it is, the final license, super license in Gran Turismo 7 we have managed to beat. That's going to be it for the Trying Out Gran Turismo 7 series, not only for the licenses, but altogether I've nothing left to show. So thank you everyone very much for watching, and I'll hopefully see you in another series. Bye bye.